Stretch of the show today. It's just joining us. It's Hard Facts 99.3 Nigeria Info. 6 minutes come past the 5 o'clock hour. It's that time of the day where we talk A's and nays. And on A's and nays, our duty is to tell you about the inner workings of the National Assembly. Bills passed, bills, pushed, lobbied for on the floor of the National Assembly, and how these things affect us as Nigerians. And we've had a series for the past 3 weeks talking about the different legislatures from local government to state. And last week, Wednesday, we talked about the House of Representatives. Now, today, which is our last in the series, we're going to be talking about the Senate. What is the duty of a senator? What are the duties of the Senate? We've talked about the House of Representatives, and today we want to know who a senator is, why he is sat there on that seat, and who is he representing. My guest, Professor Richard Aduche Wokocha, who is a law professor from the law department at the River State University, is joining us live via Zoom. Professor Wokocha, it's always a pleasure to have you join us on the show. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening, and good evening, Nigerians.
It looks like you went to court today. Anyway, before
every work day is a work day for a lawyer.
I know. Before we get into talking about the inner workings of the Senate, do you mind commenting on the Supreme Court judgment today?
Well, yes, I think I'm happy it has finally brought the contestations to an end. Somehow I was afraid we were going so far, we were going to throw away everything and embarrass the country a lot more. But again, the decision of the court agrees on all fours with the views I had expressed on those issues when we had conversations in the past about them on other media. So it's not surprising. Nothing there is surprising. Nothing there is new.
Okay.
I congratulate the winner, and I congratulate those who fought hard to get to the point where they've got into. Okay. We look forward to 2027 and hope everybody joins hands to make the country a better place.
Since this is not our conversation, I'll leave it at that. Let's talk about let's talk about the Senate. Who is a senator and what comprises of a senatorial district?
A senator is a person elected to one of the chambers of the National Assembly. Each state of the Federation is divided into 3 senatorial zones, and each senator represents 1/3 of the state, no matter how large, no matter how small. Whether the state be as large as Kano State with 40 local governments or thereabout, or as small as Bayelsa State with 8 local governments. Each of them is represented by 3 senators. So a senator represents 1/3 of the population of every state.
Well, that's different but that's different from a House of Representatives, right?
Oh yes, very, very different. Very, very different.
Okay.
When it comes to the House of Representatives, states with larger number of local governments will have much more members. Each House of Representative member, as we discussed at the last time, represents not larger than about 2 local governments in his state. So it's completely different. The Senate houses representatives, 3 representatives from each state, no matter the size of the state. That's perhaps why they are called the upper chamber, because they represent a larger population than the rest members.
What are the duties, according to the Constitution, of a senator representing a senatorial district?
The duty of a senator generally is legislation and more. In the last discussion, we talked about the exclusive legislative list being the list of items that are reserved for the national legislature The state can't venture into that area. No other authority can venture into that area. So the work of the senator to legislate and regulate all of those items that are listed, about 66 of them, in the exclusive legislative list, together with the members of the House of Reps when it comes to legislation. But senators also have some other functions which they do not perform with the House of Reps. If you look at Section 171 of the Constitution, it tells you, in addition to the legislative function of the Senate will approve persons appointed to serve in the federal executive in many service capacities. Okay. Ambassadors, ministers, representatives of the country and other places, heads of several institutions, persons who are going to help the president in administrative capacity to exercise his functions as delegates of executive power. A lot of them are subject to approval of the Senate. Appointment of the heads of courts of the Federation, the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the President of the Federal High Court. These are things that the Senate must clear before they can function in capacities. Beyond these two, the bulk of the other responsibilities are performed alongside with the House of Reps. As I said the last week, a bill can begin in Senate, and when it is corroborated by the House of Reps passing it, it becomes ready to become law when it is submitted to the President for assent. It can be on the House of Reps. If the Senate concurs by also passing that, it becomes law upon being transmitted to the President for assent. So these are the roles of members of the Senate.
What is their responsibility to their constituents? What is their responsibility to their constituents?
A senator plays a dual role. As a legislator, a national legislator, he helps in making laws, in formulating policies that will govern the state, taking Nigeria, for example. But he is also a representative of his senatorial district. So his responsibility to his senatorial district is to ensure as much as possible that he receives information from them on issues of national importance that are coming up in it, and that he receives complaints from them as well briefing them. Now they have constituency allowances, they have constituency offices, which we maintain through the taxpayers' money. And all of this is supposed to provide the opportunity and the room for them to be able to intervene.
Please repeat it. Yes. Repeat it. You said that.
I said we maintain senatorial offices for them, and we maintain.
Taxpayers' money is used
because we maintain even the National Assembly, what they do there. But in addition, we have special provisions for them to have constituency offices. And we maintain the staff in the constituency offices, and we pay for the running of the constituency offices. Why we do that is that we want the laws and policies formulated by the National Assembly to be a true reflection of the feelings and aspirations of the people of the constituencies that our senators represent. So a senator has responsibility to interface with his senatorial district, have meetings as may be necessary, receive complaints from them or receive their attention on issues they think are of national importance and relevance. He's a spokesman for the senatorial district he represents, and he should reflect their concerns when national issues.
Professor, are you still there? I think that we lost that connection. But before we get the professor back, Lagos, I want to open the lines because he's touched on Professor Wokocha. We lost you for a second. We lost your connection for a second. We're going to bring you back on. I think you were frozen for a bit, but I want to bring Lagos into this conversation because you've touched a nerve here. The constituency offices. I was having a conversation with an elderly person yesterday about his senators, and and I said, you could, if we don't want them to get these cars, we can go to their constituency, to the senatorial offices, and say, we don't want you to get this car, collect the money, and we have other things that you can do with. And she said, well, we don't have any office that we can go to because there is none here. So I want Lagosians to call in. How many of us know where these offices are that we can go to and petition them or let them understand that this is what we need in our constituency or in our senatorial district. So I want people to call 0700 993 993 993 0700 993 993 993. Because again, one of the reasons why we're having this conversation is to educate us on some of the things that we need to know so that when we're asking, we do not ask amiss. Hello.
Hello. Good evening, Brian.
Good evening.
This is Oboli.
All right, Mrs. Oboli, go ahead. What's your question or your comment?
All right. My question is, someone like me, like rightly said, I don't know where to go if I want to tender any report or anything about it. That's number one. Number two, I don't know if you're back online.
He's listening.
But I wanted to ask all that he has highlighted this afternoon. Does it see the Senate playing out these rules judiciously?
Okay.
Those are my questions.
All right, great. Professor, her first question is, she doesn't know where these offices are and how she can locate them if she has any information for her senator. Secondly, she's saying all these roles and functions that you've rolled out, can we say that the Nigerian Senate is playing its role properly?
For the office, I am sure if you can search, if you check the National Assembly website, you may be able to find information about where the office representative is. But you have the right to access his phone number. You have the right to call him. And if you can't find him, maybe you ask your candidate or you are a member of the House of Assembly, they'll be able to tell you where the senatorial office of your senatorial district is.
That is if you have access to the state legislator, because that can also be an uphill task.
Yes, but when we have a need, those are near the state headquarters where you are, and you can easily get the House of Assembly and look for your representative. If you don't, you may have other officers or government representatives who may be able to avail you their phone numbers. Their phone numbers are supposed to be public. We're supposed to be able to reach them and to draw their attention to things that they need to know. So these are things that if we are really pressed and we want it, we can find them through any of these positions or offices I have mentioned, through which you can access them.
Okay.
Are they really doing their work? Yes, they sit. Are we satisfied with the quality of work they are doing? That's a subjective question that each man may answer differently. Yes. Do we desire better? Yes, we have a lot of issues that require attention, and we need policies to address those issues. Are they acting exactly as our representatives? Not always. Sometimes we disagree. We can't find food to eat, and they want brand new G costs how many tens of millions. So we don't seem to be on the same page on those issues. So other than that, they are sitting, they are deliberating on issues coming up. We will be dissatisfied with the quality of deliberation and the quality of policies that they are considering, vis-a-vis the ones that we think are important that they are not considering. But yes, they are doing their work.
Let's take another call. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Yes, Miriam, good evening.
Good evening. What's your name? Where are you coming from?
Yeah, Francis from here. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite obvious to the entire world that the senators are not representing the Nigerians. So I want to ask again, what we do then? Should we occupy the street? See representing us? They're not in the mind of the people. Good evening.
All right. Thank you very much, Francis. Professor Francis is asking, he's saying, firstly, that it's obvious that the senators are not really doing the bidding of the people. And he's saying, so what do we do? He's saying, do we occupy the street? Do we go on a protest? How do we get their attention?
Well, first, I think while agreed they may not really be doing our bidding, I also want to accuse us of being too complacent about issues that affect. Do we really take steps? Do we really make any effort? Association of Market Women of the Senatorial District can seek the audience of the senator on what they consider important that affects them, and they will see him to make himself available. Association of youths of the place, because our individual voices may not be strong enough and they may not be loud enough to attract his attention. But acting through civil society, through the organizations within which we belong and we function in society, we can take their attention by force. They cannot refuse to see us when we want to see them, because they will come back to us in a distant time. So let's maximize our own part of putting the box on their table. Let's take the issues to them first so that we can accuse them of not doing what we have said they should do. But if they go the other way and we go the other way, we will only accuse each other from a long distance and nobody will really be justified.
Great. I have just 2 minutes. Let me see if I can quickly take a message on WhatsApp, and then we'll go on this break. When we come back, I'll allow more people to talk. Someone says, the Constitution gives legislators investigative and not oversight functions. Constituency projects are illegal, not recognized in the Constitution. Another critical constitutional role is to expose corruption in addition to making laws for good governance. And Adoye is saying they're not doing this, obviously. Professor, care to comment?
Yeah, we did not go through the list we went through, though we didn't go through the entire list. As I said, 66 items altogether.
Yes.
But yes, the Senate has investigative power. You cannot supervise, you cannot regulate if you do not have power to call people and ask questions. So those investigative powers are the powers to summon executive officers who are implementing budget passed by them, summon public officers who are implementing policies formulated by the Senate and who are acting on issues that are within the purview of the exclusive legislative list, which the Senate has competence to make law on. They have the power to summon all such people, ask questions, make findings, and make recommendations even to the chief executive on actions like firing them or commending them and any of such, or making necessary amendments to ensure that the end goal and end objective of budgets or of policies are achieved if they are not being achieved the right way. So these are their investigative powers. Of course, they have much more powers. Remember the power of impeachment by which they can hold even the chief executive accountable if he fails to, if he violates the Constitution or commits a gross misconduct, etc., etc. So there are a lot of all those things. Yes, I have agreed that there are a lot of things they are not doing the way we want and that they are
In
not
fact,
doing well.
you know what? Let's go on this break. When I come back, I want us to talk about that probe issue and impeachment when we come back from this break. It's still A's and nays on hard facts, and we still have Professor Richard Aduche Wokocha of the Law Department at the River State University in Port Harcourt talking to us about the functions and the roles of a senator in Nigeria. We'll be right back after this break.
An amazing start to your day.
99.3 Nigeria Info, your number one station for talk. Let's talk. Welcome back to Hard Facts.
Yes, it's still A's and nays. Like I did say earlier on, it's the home stretch on Hard Facts. My name is Mary Okon, still being joined by Professor Richard Aduche Wokocha, who is a law professor at the University, River State University in Port Harcourt. We've been talking about the Senate in Nigeria, what their duties are and what the responsibilities to us are. And before we went on that break, we were taking your questions, your comments on this issue, and would like to hear from you for the next 2 to 3 minutes before we wrap up on the show. This one says, a very pleasant exhortation from the Prof to us. Please ask him how many times he's been able to see his own senator, even with his high-profile status. I stand to be corrected that the so-called lawmakers are not easily met with or seen. Can't he see how empty their seats are during their sessions? Second case, I beg. Okay, he says second base. Boyson from Afamidia. Professor, I know you want to answer this one. Go ahead.
Tell him, first, I've not had cause to see my senator. I have had thoughts about issues in the local environment. I have transmitted proposed bill to member representing me in the House of Assembly on some previous occasion.
Okay.
I have not had cause to see my senator, but I know where his senatorial office is.
Yeah,
Where the senatorial, yes,
okay.
I know.
All right, great. Let me take another thought here on WhatsApp. Somebody says, okay. Someone is saying here that there are two forms of democracy: direct democracy, where the citizens directly vote on laws and policies, and representative democracy, where citizens elect representatives to make decisions on their behalf. Why don't we practice the direct democracy? He's asking. Emmanuel Chisco. Yes, Professor.
Because of our population and how vast our society is, our legal, our territory, the territory covered by our laws, how vast it is. You can imagine 200 and something million people having to take turns to engage in administration. It will be almost impossible to do, especially where you have to hear from everybody in the community before you take a decision. So the best way to make it happen is to have us elect persons who will go and speak for us, who are expected to come back to us, bring feedback, and to take our own views to align with the national policy being formulated.
All right.
So modern society, current size of modern society,
I did say after
and the population makes direct democracy impossible. That was practiced last year.
Okay, so sorry. The network was disconnecting you. I thought you were done talking. I did say I was going to ask you about impeachment. It's nice on paper when we see all the things that our senators are able to do. But then in reality, I have just 1 minute before I wrap up the show. In reality, when we see that what's happening in the country, that if the president is from a certain party, whether it's PDP, APC, Labour Party, the majority in the House will be people who also support him. And half the time, no matter what the president does, they'd rather be at his beck and call than, do what the people would want. So is that ever going to be possible in this country? You have about 50 seconds.
Well, it's happened before at the state levels. There's been attempt at the presidential level, but we have not had a successful impeachment of a president. The way our policies and our laws and administration has structured makes them so powerful that they very often are able to influence what happens at the legislative level. There is the dual issue of partisan interests and constituency interest. And very often, because the politicians want to protect their own political future, they go with the party interests. And with that, you will find very few who will be willing to vote to remove their own party president or vice president. Yes.
At the expense of their own people, the people who they represent.
at the expense of their party. Yes.
Well,
So it's rare to find them.
Well, I would really love for us to have more of this conversation, but unfortunately, our time is fast spent. Professor Richard Aduche Wokocha is a law professor at the River State University, and it is in Port Harcourt. Thank you so much, Professor. You've been an amazing lecturer to us this 4 weeks, and we totally appreciate you. We're hoping that when we call, you would answer very soon.
It's a citizen's duty. We will always answer.
All right. Thank you very much once again, Professor. Professor Richard Aduche Wokocha of the Law Department at the River State University in Port Harcourt. Before I say my goodbyes, Kemi is here with some information for us. Let's take that and then I'll come and say my goodbyes.
Ronald